Hello, it's George from Ireland. So, welcome to my channel. And I never saw this one coming. Nobody did. That George Galloway is back in Parliament again. Wow, the comeback kid. He was a Labour MP for Glasgow Hill Head from 1987 till it was about 2005 when he was expelled from the Labour Party. Why calling for British troops to mutiny and not to liberate Iraq. But in 2005, he found his Respect Party. He won a seat there in Bethnal Green and Bow, East London, defeating Una King, a reptilian Blairite. He lost that seat eventually. He came back for Bradford North, again unseating Labour in a by-election. He lost that seat in a general election, back to Labour, and then he's won this one here. Wow, in Rochdale. So since he left the Labour Party, he's always stood in seats which has got a large Muslim minority. So although he's from a Christian background himself, he often appeals to Muslim concerns about the Ummah and so forth. I mean, his second wife is a Palestinian. Is he on to his third wife? I don't remember. So long before it was fashionable, way back in the 1970s, he took up the cause of Palestinian nationalism, elected to Dundee City Council as a Labour person, and had the Palestinian flag flying there, expressed solidarity with Palestine's cause. And it's become quite a mainstream thing on the left. So he's a man of the far left. He's irrepressible. So I think his views are rebarbative on many issues. He's not absolutely wrong on anything, but surely people got to hand it to him for some courage, some consistency. But where he's been absolutely vile is where he lavished praise on Saddam Hussein. Sir, I salute you for your courage, your strength, your indefatigability, and so on. So he's often advocated for organizations like Hamas, which some people, Hezbollah, regard as terrorist organizations. He's often not called out the appalling crimes committed by Bashir al-Assad, his regime in Syria, and so on. He's been against Western intervention in Middle Eastern countries, and there's an arguable case to be made for that. He's often spoken up for genocidal tyrannies such as the Soviet Union, which enslaved people. And I use that word in an absolutely literal sense when people, for their ethnicity or their religion or their social class or for their being a political dissident, are sent to slave labor camps where many of them die. That is slavery. And all right, a few of them will survive and were set free. But then again, African American slaves were occasionally manumitted. Didn't mean it wasn't slavery. So the Rochdale by-election, now he was helped by an unusual concatenation of circumstances. So it was previously a Labour seat, and Tony Lloyd, the Labour MP, he died en poste. And then Labour's candidate, Azhar Ali, made some possibly injudicious remarks, which many people have said were anti-Semitic. So it was too late to pull out. The nomination papers were already in. Labour couldn't get another candidate, but they dumped him effectively, so they wouldn't campaign for him, thinking they'd probably win anyway and let him back into the fold. But that didn't work for them. So no, Labour MPs were told not to go there. But this allowed a unique opportunity for him to slip through there. The Workers' Party of Britain, part of the anti-democratic left in the United Kingdom, and it should have been a safe Labour seat. Labour's held this one for about 80 years. Anyway, I thought Labour would win on a much reduced share of the vote. My God, I was wrong by that one. So what a stunning result, 39.7% for George Galloway's Workers' Party. The Workers' Party, only recently founded, has never stood in this constituency previously. But he's a man with a profile and is a very ebullient campaigner, very combative interviewee. An independent called David Tully, who was virtually unknown, he got 21% of the vote. So the governing party reduced to 12% of the vote, 19 percentage points down. So Labour got a shameful 7.7% of the vote, their worst share of the vote ever in that constituency. Now, of course, it's going to go down a lot because Labour was doing nothing for Azhar Ali. Some Labour voters were put off by his contentious remarks. He alleged that the Israeli government knew the 7th of October attacks were coming, allowed them to go ahead anyway. So this is this conspiracy doing the rounds on the wilder reaches of the internet. But the Labour share of the votes, but down by a shocking 44 percentage points. And then the Liberal Democrats got 7% of the vote. Reform UK had Simon Danczuk as its standard bearer. He got 6.3% of the vote. Now, Danczuk was previously the Labour MP for this very constituency. Now, he got himself into hot water because it turned out he was sexting a 17-year-old. Now, 16 is the age of consent, and until last year, you could actually get married to a 16-year-old, no matter how old you were, so long as the 16-year-old's parents gave permission. So for him to have a consensual sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl would not be unlawful. He was married at the time, by the way, and his wife used to like to pose for sexually provocative photos she put on Twitter and Instagram. Not that I oppose that whatsoever, just a neutral observation. So although what he's doing was within the pale of the law, people thought it was ethically suboptimal. I'm not sure if the young lady concerned objected and felt harassed by this. So he was pressured to step aside, and he's joined Reform UK, which is often seen to be a right-wing party. Here he's a man of the left standing for them. So he still has a following there. And that was actually not much of a following, because they're down on the general election, 1.8% down. Okay. So stunning victory. Now, we all know that these by-election breakthroughs are very seldom replicated in the forthcoming general election. The idea that it's overwhelming the Muslim community of Rochdale cast their ballots for Comrade Galloway, that come the general election, they will return to the Labour fold, which is a fairly safe assumption. Maybe only half of them will. But in which case, supposing he got 20%, Labour would, and the other 20% went back to Labour. Labour 27% would still win, actually. Conservatives are down a lot, and the Conservatives will maybe recover a little bit, but it's very hard to see the Conservatives winning there. So he's back in Parliament, and can he hold the seat at the general election? It's highly improbable that he will. And it made me think of 2005, when he ousted Una King, and he said, "Mr. Blair, this one's for Iraq, and for the tens of thousands you've slaughtered across the globe in your bloody reign of terror." So he's an absolute firebrand orator, and he harks back to a previous generation of parliamentarians who were very gifted public speakers, who cut their teeth speaking outdoors without loud halos or any audio system. And there was really fractious affairs, very rambunctious street campaigning, and he's a part of that tradition. So he's an uncompromising man of the far left. High tax, high regulation, big welfare payments, and all the rest of it. So he spits blood in the name of the Tories and so forth. He's often been accused of anti-Semitism. He said this is a foul slur. He's not against any ethnicity or any religion, and he claims that these are smears are used to try and cover up Israeli crimes. So that is him. So he's a hero to some on the ultra left, and some Islamists. George Galloway. He's appeared on RT, the Kremlin-funded propaganda channel, which has been taken off the air. Now, taking them off the air is one of the few things about the response to the Ukraine war that I'm deeply uncomfortable with, because that smacks of censorship. So that he's back, and we certainly haven't heard the last from him. So we're going to hear a lot more about Mr. Galloway. Okay, so 30% of the voters in that town are Muslim, and they'll just be increasing. Now, not all Muslims would vote for him or would agree with him. Right, thank you so much for watching the channel. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, donate on PayPal. Goodbye, everybody.